Good morning. This is our last historical fiction picture book, and it's called Freedom Summer by Deborah Wiles. This book takes place in America during segregation. Segregation means legally enforced separation. So in America, this meant the separation of white people and people of color through what are called Jim Crow laws. These particularly focused on excluding black people from housing, education, and society in general. Segregation took place from 1865, the second slavery ended, and lasted until 1964. We're going to read just a little bit of this author's note. It said, when the Civil Rights Act was passed, the town pool closed. So did the roller rink and the ice cream parlor. Rather than lawfully giving blacks the same rights and freedoms as whites, many Southern businesses chose to shut their doors in protest, and some of them closed forever. So we can see here that restaurants were segregated. We see the two different entrances here. We see that laundromats, buses, and even drinking fountains were segregated. Before and even after the Civil Rights Act was signed into law, people continued to be hateful, to be violent, and to terrorize black communities. In Montgomery, Alabama, a white supremacist terrorist organization called the KKK bombed the 16th Street Baptist Church and killed 4 children. This led to a huge nationwide civil rights movement led by Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, where people protested and fought for their rights. In 1964, the Civil Rights Act was signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson, and here is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. standing alongside him. So this is Freedom Summer by Deborah Wiles. John Henry Waddell is my best friend. His mama works for my mama. Her name is Annie Mae. Every morning at 8 o'clock, Annie Mae steps off the county bus and walks up the long hill to my house. If it's summer, John Henry is stepping it right beside her. We like to help Annie Mae. We shell butter beans, we sweep the front porch, we let the cats in, then chase the cats out of the house, until Annie Mae says, "Shoo! Enough of you two, go play!" We shoot marbles in the dirt until we're too hot to be alive. Then we yell, "Last one in is a rotten egg!" and run straight for Fiddler's Creek. So the mood here is very happy, very carefree. John Henry swims better than anybody I know. He crawls like a catfish, blows bubbles like a swamp monster, but he doesn't swim in the town pool with me. He's not allowed. So we dam the creek with rocks and sticks to make a swimming spot, then holler and jump in, wearing only our skin. So it seems they have a really strong relationship and that they stick together even though all of this is going on around them. John Henry's skin is the color of browned butter. He smells like pine needles after a good rain. My skin is the color of the pale moths that dance around the porch light at night. John Henry says I smell like a just-washed sock. "This means war!" I shout. We churn that water into a white hurricane and laugh until our sides hurt. Then we float on our backs and spout like whales. "I'm going to be a fireman when I grow up," I say. "Me too," says John Henry. I have 2 nickels for ice pops, so we put on our clothes and walk to town. John Henry doesn't come with me through the front door of Mr. Mason's general store. He's not allowed. "How you doing, young Joe?" asks Mr. Mason. He winks and says, "You gonna eat these all by yourself?" My heart does a quick beat. I got one for a friend," I say, and scoot out the door. "Yes, sir, it's mighty hot out there," Mr. Mason calls after me. "I love ice pops," says John Henry. "Me too," I say. So the whole story is from Joe's perspective. So as we keep reading, I want you to think, what might John Henry be thinking and feeling? Annie Mae makes dinner for my family every night. She creams the corn and rolls the biscuits. Daddy stirs his iced tea and says the town pool opens tomorrow to everybody under the sun, no matter what color. That's the new law, Mama tells me. She helps my plate with peas and says, "It's the way it's going to be now. Everybody together. Lunch counters, restrooms, drinking fountains too." I wiggle in my chair like a doodlebug. "I gotta be excused," I shout, and I run into the kitchen to tell John Henry. "I'm going to swim in the town pool," he hollers. "Is it deep?" "Real deep," I tell him, "and the water's so clear you can jump to the bottom and open your eyes and still see." "Let's be the first ones there," says John Henry. "I'll bring my good luck nickel, and we can dive for it." Next morning, as soon as the sun peeks into the sky, here comes my best friend, John Henry Waddell, running to meet me. "Let's go," he yells. "I got my nickel." And I run right with him, all the way to the town swimming pool. We race each other over the last hill and we stop. County dump trucks are here. They grind and back up to the empty pool. Workers rake steaming asphalt into the hole where sparkling clean water used to be. One of them is John Henry's big brother, Will Rogers. We start to call to him, "What happened?" But he sees us first and points back on down the road. It means get on home. So I'm wondering why his brother is doing this. Surely he wants his little brother to be happy and swim in the pool like everyone else. He must really need this job. And speaking of jobs, in The Babe and I, we saw how terrible it can be when someone loses their job. This pool owner willingly closed his pool and lost his job. This means he'll have less money to pay taxes, to pay his bills, and less money to feed his family. The pool owner decided that his hate was greater than his personal needs, and rather than allow blacks and whites to swim together, he closed the pool. But our feet feel stuck. We can't budge. So we hunker in the tall weeds and watch all morning until the pool is filled with hot, spongy tar. Smoky steam rises in the air. Workers tie planks to their shoes and stomp on the blacktop to make it smooth. Will Rogers heaves his shovel into the back of an empty truck and climbs up with the other workers. His face is like a storm cloud, and I know this job has made him angry. "Let's go," a boss man shouts, and the trucks rumble slam down the road. It's so quiet now, we can hear the breeze whisper through the grass. We sit on the diving board and stare at the tops of the silver ladders sticking up from the tar. My heart beats hard in my chest. John Henry's voice shakes. "White folks don't want colored folks in their pool." "You're wrong, John Henry," I say, but I know he's right. "Let's go back to Fiddler's Creek," I say. "I didn't want to swim in this old pool anyway." John Henry's eyes fill up with angry tears. "I did," he says. "I wanted to swim in this pool. I want to do everything you can do." I don't know what to say, but as we walk back to town, my head starts to pop with new ideas. I want to go to the Dairy Dip with John Henry, sit down and share root beer floats. I want us to go to the picture show, buy popcorn, and watch the movie together. I want to see this town with John Henry's eyes. We stop in front of Mr. Mason's store. I jam my hands into my pockets while my mind searches for words to put with my new ideas. My fingers close around 2 nickels. "Want to get an ice pop?" John Henry wipes his eyes and takes a breath. "I want to pick it out myself." I swallow hard and my heart says yes. "Let's do that," I say. I give John Henry one of my nickels. He shakes his head. "I've got my own." We look at each other. Then we walk through the front door together.